Awesome. Welcome back, you guys. It's Kalei Poteet with Fleet Connect. If you have not heard of me just yet, we facilitate, one of the, I believe to be one of the fastest Facebook communities in the trucking space. And, driver, wellness is a big thing, right? I come from the driver background, so I definitely understand what it's like to kind of be on the road and not really having enough time to stay healthy. I'm a big advocate for, staying in shape, running, staying active, going to the gym. So I want that for everyone, right? Because, one thing I know for sure is that's probably one of the main ways to, make yourself feel better a lot of times, right? And being on the road is stressful, being away from your family, your kids, home, right? So whatever you can do to kind of tap into that wellness, we definitely want to make sure we get that insight to you. So today we have Mr. Dr. Mark Monero on. Project 61, right? For the people that have never heard of Project 61, or you specifically, Mr. Monero, can you just introduce yourself, how you got started, and what your role is specifically in your company?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much for having me. Call me Mark. We're all friends here. No worries there. Project 61 is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit in the trucking industry focused on helping drivers live healthier, happier lives. It's called
Right.
Project 61 because the average life expectancy of a truck driver is 61 years old.
Wow.
Frankly, that's messed up. I don't think anyone's career should define their health. And I think a lot
Mm,
of people in trucking, and you kind of brought it up at the beginning here, is I think a lot of people find themselves in a interesting spot from a health perspective because of some of the unique barriers that driving a truck, especially as you get, closer down the spectrum of driving OTR or, just
yeah.
trying to, as a small fleet, trying to keep, the lights on and pushing hard. A lot of the
Right.
times maybe your physical and mental health can fall down a bear, be put on the back burner. And so Project
Yeah.
61 was created to help give drivers specific industry focused solutions to help live a healthier, happier life anywhere you drive. And so my background is really unique, and I'm actually new to Project 61. So technically my title is I'm the president and chief health officer of the nonprofit, but I actually got started in the trucking industry when I was a doctor of physical therapy. So I was working as a physical therapist here. I live in St. Louis, and in walked in a bunch of truck drivers. And this was 5 years ago to the clinic that I was working at. And it was the first time I got to know some drivers on a personal level, but also
Hmm.
first time seeing what like 20, 30 years behind the wheel can do to someone's health. And
Right.
it threw me down this rabbit hole, and I'm a little bit of a research nerd, so like I was digging into some of the statistics on health of drivers, the industry as a whole, and like coming from an outsider perspective, I was really shocked at seeing, truck drivers have the highest rates of obesity and diabetes among any other occupation. And then the life expectancy number and the fact that you go and get your CDL and statistically have 16 years cut off the back end of your life because truck drivers have that life expectancy of 61 years old. And it
Mm,
just like hit me to my core. I'm a very mission driven person. And I was like, man, I need to do something about this. And so I went down a couple of years on the corporate health side of things, working with dozens of trucking companies, a bunch of insurance companies. I say like getting my MBA in trucking and just like learning the industry because I wasn't in it. I didn't know anything about it. And I spent hundreds of hours talking to drivers, doing ride alongs, hanging out at truck stops. I think I'm still the only physical therapist in the world that between
mm.
patients, I was on the phone with drivers as they're like going down the highway and just like hearing the, probably big fish stories that drivers
Right.
have and tell you. But I was just like really intrigued and really curious. And like, I always found in the trucking industry, if you lead with like kindness and curiosity, people are happy to help. People are happy to tell you their story and explain things. And I just like soaked it up like a sponge. That what I recognized through that process was that there was a huge gap for in the trucking industry for health benefits that trucking companies have available to
Mm,
offer their employees. And
right.
all of the health programs that they had available to offer their employees, they were all built for someone who works in a cubicle and a white
Right.
collar employee who sits at a desk, has a water, can go get water or cook something up at, in the microwave at, in the kitchen at the office, or maybe is working remotely and then goes home and works a 9 to 5. And they clearly weren't built for the truck drivers. They weren't built for the trucking industry. Drivers like just didn't resonate with them, and the programs that were available didn't fit the lifestyle, the culture, or just the industry as a whole. And so I
Right.
started a company called Offshift, and we built a digital health program that was specifically focused on helping drivers prevent and manage obesity related chronic diseases. So
Mm,
helping them lose weight, manage their diabetes, manage their heart disease, and do it all anywhere they drive out on the road. And so we were
mm,
helping drivers, work out in the back of their truck when they're waiting at a customer's to get reloaded. And then we were also helping them eat healthier at the Love's truck stop or McDonald's attached to it. And like really built the whole thing around like not shaming them for the fact that these are the things that they do. Drivers, sit behind a wheel for 11 hours a day, have the resources of truck stops and other restaurants out on the road because that's what they keeps a roof over their family's
mm,
head. And
mm,
we can't, shame them for the fact of that, but let's look at the variables that we can control and let's help them make the healthiest decision anywhere they stop or anywhere they're at in the country. And so we did that for a couple of years. And actually, 17 days ago, um, Project 61 knocked on our door and said, hey, we're like both on the same mission trying to help drivers be healthier. We're both in two different boats rowing in the same direction. Let's like hop in the same boat and let's do this together. And so Project 61 actually acquired my company, Offshift, and now we are merging it. And the whole thing's under Project 61, the nonprofit. Now, instead of me going to trucking companies and trying to sell our program, we
mm.
are launching the industry's first completely free driver's health program. So what we were
Mm.
selling to companies now, drivers and companies can have it completely for free and offer it to their drivers. And really the mission is like, how can we get the resources out to as many drivers as possible to, you know, um, help change those statistics?
Man, that is awesome, man. So would the drivers would they have to go through the employer? Would they have to bring it up to the employer, or they just go straight to you guys and kind of get benefits from Project 61?
Both. So drivers can come directly to us. Our main focus is going well, it's the industry as a whole, but right now we're focused on going to companies and getting those because, for us, if we can go to one company and get 5,000 drivers engaged
Mm,
in our program for free, that's like the biggest bang for our buck. And it's kind of like the biggest opportunity for Project 61 right now to help
mm.
push the mission forward. But we're working with anyone. If there's an owner operator, if there's a small fleet, anyone who wants to get engaged, we want to give you the resources.
Love that, man. So what does a typical day look like for you well, I'd like to know what a typical day for you looked like before you got acquired, and then now that you have partnered with Project 61, what does that look like, and how does that kind of separate?
Yeah, day to day doesn't change a ton.
Okay,
For
gotcha.
me as we've got a team of coaches, and so it's managing and directing and leading the team of coaches to work on our programs and working with all the drivers they're working with. And then I'm also working with our software team to build out our app and our software on the back end. And then for me it's really how do we create the sales and marketing processes where we can
Mm,
get in front of the fleets and as many drivers and insurance companies as possible, because that's how we're going to be able to make the impact. And so
mm,
I'm actually speaking at a decent amount of trucking conferences, traveling around and talking to trucking companies, and
mm,
really just pushing forward with the founder of Project 61, Jeremy Raymer. And
mm.
him and I are just really focused on how do we get Project 61 out there across the industry.
Gotcha. Is the focus more on the conferences, or is it more so like social media? Have you guys thought about like which platforms kind of get the best feedback at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's been because of the industry executive approach of going to companies. LinkedIn has been huge for us, and then also speaking at these conferences. So I'm speaking at the Illinois Trucking Association conference. I'm speaking at New York Trucking Association, like a bunch of those where a lot of the fleets who are those members go to. And then the other aspect is, yeah, making content for drivers. And those platforms for us has been Facebook,
Mm.
Instagram, and TikTok, and also X, actually, surprisingly as well. I guess not surprisingly, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers hang out on Facebook. I think that's why we still kind of use it as a hub for what we do. I'm just communicating with drivers all day. But yeah, Facebook, I'd say TikTok as well is a great place to be. So more of a omni-channel presence right now. You guys are focused on just tapping into
Exactly.
every. Okay, cool. Now, as far as I guess the progress you guys are making right now, like what are some major shifts you're kind of seeing inside of the industry with drivers that are looking to get more healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in our country as a whole, there's this huge wave of health going on. I think it's been going on for the last few years, but I think you even see it more so in the last 6 to 12 months of like people want to be healthy. It's now like a status thing of like people who are healthier. They're like focusing, and we're all wearing like whoops and aura rings and
Right.
wearables, and people want to be healthy. They want to feel good both physically and mentally. And that same shift that's happening across our country, I'm seeing happen in the trucking industry as well. I mean, you go
Mhm.
on social media and now you've got influencers who are drivers who are, they're posting workout videos, they're posting, things they're eating. And I love that stuff. And we want to work with those people to say, like, hey, let's push this mission forward. And, Project 61
Right.
wants to be one of the spearheads, but it's not the only solution. It's not the only person in the industry who needs to be talking about health. Like everyone in every different angle needs to be, part of it.
Absolutely. We actually started a supplement brand maybe a couple of years ago. I just had a issue with the distribution, and I guess that's a part of my wellness journey, right? Is there any supplements that you would kind of recommend inside of your programs that for drivers to kind of take as they're going through that journey?
Yeah, for us, what we focus on is helping them make the baseline nutrition pieces. So helping them
Yeah.
eat, more protein, helping them eat more fruits and vegetables, helping them eat more whole grains,
Yeah.
and really also cut down on the amount of calories they're drinking through sodas and
Mm,
sugary creamers in the soda. But I think some things from a supplement standpoint is like I use whey protein. I think whey protein shakes and bars can be amazing,
mm,
can be as a quick, easy thing. And if you've got a tub of protein powder, like that's super
mm,
easy to store in your truck and it's like a quick
mm,
meal at any point.
mm.
And then I also take creatine, and then went and got some blood work done earlier this year, and I was low on vitamin D, and so I take a vitamin D supplement. And so if a driver's out there and they go get some blood work done, and their doctor recommends a certain supplement to help
Yeah,
boost those levels up, I think that's amazing too, and they should follow that recommendation.
absolutely. Now, as far as drivers staying healthy on the road and working out, what are some of the steps that they can take? Let's say if they don't have time to hit the gym, is it more so should they carry, basic weights in the truck with them, jump ropes? What do you kind of recommend for them if they can't make it to the gym a lot of times?
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is most people are not gym people, right?
Yeah,
A lot of people, even if there was a gym at every single truck stop, these drivers just like they wouldn't either feel comfortable or it's not their vibe, and that's completely
gotcha.
okay. And
Yeah.
so what we do is we give body weight and resistance band exercises and workouts. So there's a lot that can be done with just the body weight. Our most
Right.
popular program is body weight right in the back of their truck, and that's either like a stretching program or even a circuit of different body weight exercises. And then
Right.
what I found is that a resistance band seems to be the best piece of equipment because it's so versatile. You can almost like if you're creative, you can make any exercise, you can hit any
Yeah.
body part. But then the other thing is like if you slam on your brakes, a 20-pound dumbbell all of a sudden starts flying towards your windshield. A resistance band doesn't turn into
Got you. What's the biggest transformation you've seen so far with the
yeah.
driver?
We had a driver who lost 135 pounds and 10 inches off of his waist. And,
Wow.
you see this before and after photo and you're like, holy crap, dude, you just lost like a whole human. Just like, you know what I'm saying? But, like, you think about the impact that, like, I was joking with him that, like, when he jumps up in his truck, he just, like, starts floating because he's not carrying around that 135 pounds anymore, but the impact of, like, all that extra weight just, like, getting up in and up in the truck and, like, all the things that during your pre-trip and post-trip that you're having to do around the truck, like,
Mm.
that adds up. And just the impact and the energy levels that his name's Mark as well. Mark had by just taking that huge weight off,
Mm.
that alone has been life changing for him.
Absolutely, yeah. You definitely feel it. When I tend to put on a few pounds, I can definitely tell the difference. Just having that confidence, right? Make you feel better, being in shape. What would you say is, I guess, what's working really well right now, and then what's kind of like the most frustrating?
In the aspect of business, in the aspect of like when we're helping drivers, which angle?
Let's start with business first, and then we can go to drivers.
Yeah, well, I would say what's working really well is me going to trucking companies and saying, "Hey, I was trying to sell you this and take your money for as a non-profit or as a for-profit business, but now we're a nonprofit and it's completely for free." And a lesson that I've been like thinking a lot about and trying to put into practice is I used to, as I started off shift in my first business, I used to think like this could work, right? Like this could work. Like this could work. Like this model could work. But I'm now thinking about like how do I create something where it's like this would be weird if it didn't work. And to me, that's like a small shift, but it
Mm,
actually like really makes you think about like the 10% that you should really go all in on instead of like
mm,
the 100% that like all could work if like you hit the
mm,
lottery. And for me, especially now leading with a nonprofit, number one being who can't get behind a mission? Who can't get behind like we're just trying to help these drivers?
mhm,
And now with the free program, it's like
mm,
what company, what driver doesn't like we're not trying to
mm,
get you to take your credit card out. We just want you to have this program and get into it. And we want to help people be healthier. And so I
mm.
look at that as like, how could this not? It would be weird if it didn't work if we went to these
Right,
companies and said, hey, have this free program.
right. Percent. That is yeah, that's a huge impact. That's a huge impact. Well, cool. I guess if there was one major challenge today that you could solve, what would that be?
Mental health in the trucking industry. I think that the mental health piece, the mental burnt out of drivers and the isolation combined puts a lot of drivers in a position where it's really difficult for them to get their head up out of the water and be able to breathe. And when you do that, you think about the hierarchy of need and that
Mm,
if you don't have your base level set, you're not going to be able to move up to the other areas or the higher areas of life. And, I
mm,
think a lot of drivers find themselves in a situation where after their shift, after a week when they're trying to get reset, they're just mentally burnt out. And by the time they have their home time or their, the 34-hour reset, they're like finally feeling normal again. And they jump right back in the truck. And it's like, it's this vicious cycle that they get stuck in. And I
mm,
think for me, it's like, how do we use our software? How do we use our coaching programs? How do we use this movement and nonprofit to be able to help create an environment for drivers where they can feel their fullest, they can find their true identity as a
mm,
human, and they can start looking at themselves in a better light because I think a lot of drivers just really feel
mm,
down on themselves,
mm,
isolated, and have potentially some mental health things that they're dealing with and don't know where to go to get that
mm,
solved. And then also have this like cultural thing that they're dealing with where it's like, I'm pulling my bootstraps up, I'm a man, I don't need help, blah, blah. But it's like, no, 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 like we all struggle with it. Like
yeah.
it's okay. And let's find a safe way that you can get the help you need. And I think if we can solve that along with helping make some of the changes to the nutrition and physical activity piece, it's all combined, right? I think
Yeah.
it's like whichever direction or whichever door you want to open up first, the other one follows pretty closely. But I
Mm,
think that's the one that I keep seeing, a
mm,
lot of drivers just in a really tough situation there.
mm.
And how do we create an environment where they feel safe enough to come and get the help they need?
Well, no, that's massive impact. Now that you say that, I had a conversation yesterday. Um, and of course, we talk to a lot of drivers, and we try to help a lot of drivers that want to kind of expand and be able to do different things,
Yeah.
that may be talented in other areas that want to cultivate those things. So it's really interesting to kind of think about that, man, how to better serve them, but of course, educational pieces, right? And mental health being probably one of the core essential, I'd say the most essential thing to kind of being able to perform at a high level, right? If your mental is not right, then everything else is probably going to be pretty terrible. So, I mean, if there was a way to actually solve that problem, is there a specific like exercises, mental exercises, like a clearing system that you guys use in the coaching, or how do you kind of address that?
We're still super early on. So I'm very open to ideas. We've been focusing on the physical health piece of it, but off of what you even just said there, it's like what he shall think, he shall become, right? And so the mind, seriously though, right? So like the way that you're thinking about yourself, the way that you're thinking throughout your life is like it all manifests, it all whatever you want to put out
Yeah.
there is like you create your own environment and you create your own world, and two people can be looking at the same situation, and
mm,
what's going on between, upstairs and in their
mm,
brain, they can, look at the situation way differently, and
yeah,
their worlds can be experienced way differently. And so, I think it's like, how do you start shifting that mindset to drivers and just like, yeah, this is not just drivers, by the way. This is
yeah,
everyone. This is across the
100%.
world. But
Yeah,
I think we're talking specifically around drivers and helping them be healthier.
yeah, that's a big piece. I recently went through, my first, I wouldn't say my first, but like a real mindset program. Completely changed my life.
That's
Just the
amazing.
way that I kind of see the perspectives, right? You look at things through certain lenses based on past experiences, right? That may be negative. So the first thing is just identifying, being able to observe what that actually is, and kind of seeking the benefits of every situation. You always have the drawbacks and benefits. So I think just subconsciously we don't kind of, because you'd be like, well, there can't possibly be any benefits to this happening right now, right? But it causes, well, caused my brain to kind of actually just sit with that thought and really think about the benefits of a bad situation. Or if I'm feeling anxiety, feeling angry, I never really feel depressed or resentful, guilty, right? All these different emotions that we feel, and being able to kind of sit with those emotions and really feel those has been kind of just unleashing for me a new level of, I'd say, humanity for myself, being able to manage my emotions and just being able to identify, what the best version of me actually looks like in order to kind of step into that and then kind of embody that and want to share that as well. So I think the mental health piece is definitely just as important, right? So yeah, that's a great topic. And we
Yeah.
try to take people through a mental clearance system as well. The same process that I kind of went through. We try to help people go through that process too, because for me, and it's the weirdest thing because every time I do it, and I try to do it every day, like the first thing I do before, when I start my day is just kind of clear those charges, however I'm feeling, and just good things start to happen, right? The first time I did it, it was just like, boom, good thing, good thing, good thing. It was really weird just to kind of observe that because I never really had that experience. It never was a part of my reality initially until I started to do those exercises. So, but the biggest thing for me is like, how do we get people to kind of want to do the work, right? Even when it comes to working out, being well, being fit, you want to have to kind of, I wouldn't say push, but encourage, inspire, motivate um, them to want to step into that best version of them.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, if there was one or two things that you would go back and tell yourself as you just got into trucking that would make a huge difference today, what would that be?
I don't know. I don't know if let me think on that end. Kind of to piggy off of what you just said though, there to
Mm,
kind of. I also think one of the angles and one of the things that a lot of drivers, I think it comes back to like finding your why.
mm,
And I think that a lot of people, actually, I believe every single person in this world and everyone listening here, like we were all created with like this like beautiful personality and identity, and like you are the one, you are your only person, right? We all
right.
have different values and stuff like that, and I think internally we all have like this devil on a shoulder and angel on our other shoulder, and like we have multiple voices that we hear. And a lot of the
Mm,
times when we're living through life and in these situations, and this is me included, like I'm preaching to myself the most, is like
mm,
we have like just like we live our life through like fear, shame, and guilt. And like
mm,
every single situation, there's that lens that's like, man, I messed up my diet or I skipped the gym today. And it's like, oh, the self-sabotaging. Oh, I'm the
mm,
worst. Look, this is what's going to happen to my health. I might as well just give up. I'm never going to be able to
mm.
do it. And it's like, that's not the voice you should be listening to. That's not the voice. Like, that's not you. That's not your true identity. And like, for
Right.
me, like I just like we have that smaller voice that like is always loving you and like positive and like uplifting. And I think it's like pulling that voice up and like
Mm,
giving yourself some self grace and being able to be like, man, it's okay. And off of what you just said there as well is like, we never know, like what's the Steve Jobs quote where it's like, life events never make sense in the moment, but looking back retrospectively, like they
mm,
always align and they always, you can draw a circle. And so like, just like live your life that way and like don't, have like these aggressive emotions when
Okay.
a certain event happens in the moment. And I think that's something that has been just like a personal journey for me that I'm trying to navigate through. And I
Yeah.
think it really aligns well with like helping drivers through the process of trying to be healthier, because it's not a straight line
Yeah.
up and to the right. And I just did that wrong. Straight up and to the right. It's a journey up and down,
It
right?
is.
And, it's like that chart where you zoom in and it's kind of like up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
But when you zoom out wide, it's moving in the right direction. And, just don't give up when one bad thing happens, or even two, three, four bad things happen. If you just keep progressing and working hard in the direction you want to go, it'll all end up.
And I mean, you can get discouraged. There's always going to be instances where you get discouraged and you may want to give up, right? And it goes back to finding your why. What is it that you actually want to accomplish? Where are you going? Who do you have to become in order to actually accomplish those things? Setting goals, I think, is super important, right? I don't believe a lot of people, spend a lot of time like actually setting goals, whether they're short term or long term. So that's a big thing as well. But yeah, this has been super impactful. Is there anything else that you would love to kind of just leave the audience with, or anything else that they should know?
Yeah. Just, this can be a moment of time where this is like your like jump to say, hey, I'm gonna go make this, start my health journey. If you
Mm,
are in the industry and you either, hire drivers and employ drivers, or you are a driver and you want a driver specific program that you can open up an app and just follow along day by day, and you don't have to mentally think about how do I do this. You just go in and you have exactly, the workouts to follow, the nutrition habits and other lifestyle changes necessary. We've got a completely free program. If you go to project-61.org, there's
mm.
a ton of resources there, and we'd love to have you a part of the movement.
Awesome, awesome. Are you guys in our Facebook group just yet?
No, man, I'm gonna join. I gotta join.
We'd love to have you guys in there. We would love to help with any campaigns. If you guys want to post in there, anything, feel free. We definitely appreciate when people post and just become a voice in the community. I think that's the biggest thing for me is just, some people look at them like Facebook groups. They'll join groups, never really say anything, but, we try to actually foster community, meet our community members as they come in, see what their challenges are, what they might need help with. So we kind of understand, where people are in their journey, their business, their driver roles. And yeah, feel free to come in there and post, insights, information that will help, because I think it would definitely help. I definitely think people will become better versions of themselves as they continue to seek out that wellness journey for sure.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, excited for it. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, again, I want to thank you, Mark, for hopping on with us. This has been super insightful. I'm super excited to send this out. I'll be emailing this out to a few people specifically that I think that would definitely benefit from Project 61. So yeah, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.